Dating apps are almost a necessity today, especially, with all the lacking social skills that we have today, whether it's due to technology or whether it's due to COVID. People just don't have those social skills to be able to talk to somebody, to be able to approach somebody that they don't know and engage in a conversation. So it has pushed a lot of people to using dating apps to get to know people. And behind a keyboard, you don't have to, approach somebody. You don't have to allow them to see you nervous. There's so many things you can hide when you can approach a woman from behind a keyboard versus talking to them in person. But I think dating apps have had a negative effect on society. And a big part of it, I think, has led to like depression, led to a lot of rejection. I think you experience probably more rejection on dating apps than you do in reality. It may not feel the same. The rejection may be different, mainly due to the plethora of options that you may have on a dating app versus in reality. The embarrassment isn't the same. You don't really have embarrassment getting rejected on a dating app, but you can still experience depression because it's still rejection nonetheless. So it has led to a lot of depression. It leads to a lot of anxiety. It leads to a lot of fatigue. And I have experienced fatigue myself, going through hundreds. In my lifetime of being on dating apps, I probably went through over hundreds of like different profiles and different conversations, and that led to nowhere, or they were hot and on fire in the beginning, kind of that maybe not necessarily love bombing, but things seem to be so great in the beginning and then it just falls off for whatever reason. Maybe we start to realize we don't have that much in common, or maybe it's because we're entertaining other people. And when you're entertaining so many people, you don't really have the time or the ability to put focus into one person. So for whatever reason, these conversations had all died off, and it just leaves you with fatigue where you're tired. Like I'm just over. It's an emotional roller coaster because you can meet somebody and be like, I actually like this person. This person seems cool. I can't wait to meet this person. And things could be going good for maybe a month or two. And then the fire just sizzles out, and you end up feeling kind of hopeless. Like I'm never gonna meet anybody. If you experience that a few times, you're gonna start to feel hopeless, which leads to like fatigue, which leads to people getting tired, um, disabling or deleting their account, and then after some time they end up coming back and recreating another account because they realize they're not meeting anybody in person, but they want to meet somebody. So dating apps feel like the only last resort to actually meeting somebody and actually dating somebody. So it's a vicious cycle. A vicious cycle. It's an emotional roller coaster that can be super detrimental to your mental if you allow it to be. And I try to change the way I approach it. I'm a little bit more selective of the people that I choose to like, profiles that I choose to like. I think a large part of my issues in the past is that I'm matching with everybody. I'm matching with chicks that I have no business matching with, that are nothing like me, that are not liking the same things that I like. We don't share any common interests. We don't have the same beliefs, so I have now shrunken the pool of women that I choose to engage in conversation with. I really tend to focus on people that are more in line with what I want out of a woman. I kind of know what I want more today versus shooting in the wind in the past, where I want somebody who is God fearing. So I'm dating women that are agnostic. I'm dating atheists. Like, come on, that's not going to work because that's not the type of woman you want. So why even entertain or engage in conversation with this person for weeks when it's not going anywhere? I'm setting myself up for failure. I'm putting myself on this emotional roller coaster knowing how it's going to affect me. So I have just wisened up over the years as it as it pertains to my approach to these dating apps. So these it's just, I don't know, it's a struggle, and I know it's not just a struggle for me, it's a struggle for everyone. It's a struggle for women. These dating apps leave you with so many options that you can't really focus on one person. Like I was saying before, like I can have a few different girls that I'm talking to, and I can have somewhat an interest in all of them, but I can't share all my time with all of them. I'm busy. I work. I go to the gym. I play ball. I have my passion projects, things I work on. I read. So I only have so much time to give, and I'm trying to share that time with all these different women. In the end, it does nothing but backfire on you, because all of those women are going to know that your attention is being pulled somewhere else, and they're going to feel like you're really not that interested. So instead of focusing on one or two, you're focusing on four or five, and then because you're sharing all your time with those four or five women, you end up losing all of them, because they start to notice that you're entertaining other stuff, or your mind is elsewhere, or you're just not communicating like that. When I'm engaged in conversation with multiple women, I'm kind of short with all of them. I can't do the whole paragraphs. Women like to text these paragraphs, man. I hate it. That's why I love voice to text whenever it works, because half the time voice to text be creating totally different words, and that I'm even telling it to create. Um, so that's a headache on its own. But I just don't have the time to be writing out paragraphs, man. So it's just hard, delegating your time like that. So I've learned to shrink down my pool of women that I entertain, so I can, apply my attention properly to each of those females until I make a decision on who I want to move forward with. But because I operate that way, that doesn't mean everybody else is operating that way. Everybody else is probably still trying to talk to four or five different chicks. And these girls are talking to four or five different men. Women inboxes are full of men, are full of men shooting their jumper. And women love attention, man. They love anything that strokes their ego, that raises their self-esteem. So a lot of them entertain a whole bunch of stuff from other men, which is why they may ghost you. Just because they ghost you doesn't mean that they didn't like you or weren't interested in you. It's just things fall off because they're talking to so many other men that you kind of fall back a little bit. Like you become you become something on the hip pocket instead of something that they want to keep in front of their face. And so they end up choosing. They'll choose a guy who's usually way above them and try to talk to him, even though that dude is not giving you a time of his day. He's usually entertaining mad other beautiful looking women, and you're not the one he's going to try to talk to. But because women inboxes are flooded with so many average regular looking guys, their ego gets inflated. They think they're better looking than they really are, so then they start shooting for people that they have no business shooting for. They start trying to talk to Chads and, and try to talk to eights when they know they ain't they a four on a good day. So they struggle too. It's just a different struggle. Um, which is why I always preach to men to focus on yourself, focus on gaining more resources, focus on getting your body in shape. And you'll attract the right woman because they're attracted to resources. They're attracted to a man's physical body, because they love men that provide and men that can protect. So if you focus on building up the attributes that women like, most likely they'll seek you out. So that's what I tell men to focus on in the meantime while they're playing the little app games. But yeah, apps have been super detrimental to us. It's made us more antisocial. Social media is supposed to make us more social, but it's actually made us more antisocial in reality. We have lost the ability to talk to people. We have lost that ability to code approach women. When I was growing up, we had cell phones, but the internet was just being introduced. Like, the iPhone was like the real first phone where you had really the internet like that, where you can get on, search the web, and do a whole bunch of stuff on it. But so during my time, we still had to cold approach women. We had to use our mouth to talk to women. Or back in that day, we used to do notes, pass little notes in class and stuff like that. We weren't texting in class; we were passing notes. So we had those abilities, those skills to talk to women and maybe not get as nervous as young guys may get today. Young guys today don't know how to talk to women. They won't even approach women because they're too scared. And because of just how women are today, women women could be rude. Instead of putting a guy off nicely and saying, I'm not interested. Women crush your soul. Like they'll do the you, they'll do like something that like just totally messes with your whole self-esteem, where you don't ever want to approach a woman again because the interaction was horrible, so women need to work on that. They need to work on being able to put a man down nicely. You don't want to crush our self-esteem, because when you do that, we stop approaching you, and then you guys are crying about men not approaching you no more. So it's like, what do you want? Which one is it? Either you be gentle on us when we try to approach you, or we're just not going to approach you. So I don't know, man. I like to do both. I dabble in both. I like to talk to women in person because I want to keep those skills, man. Nothing's like the chase. As men, we're hunters. At least alphas, we're hunters. So I love chasing women. I love trying to holler at a girl. What I mean, trying to get her number. Having that friendly competition with your friends, with your boy. Like when I was growing up, we would be in the mall. We would walk around the mall like 100 times, trying to find girls to spit to, run a little game, try to see who got more numbers, and who got the most numbers out of the day in the day. So I come from that era. I loved being able to work and sharpen my mouthpiece, because there's nothing like that in-person reaction of wooing a girl or romanticizing a girl, you connecting right there on the spot. There's nothing like that. Dating apps can't replicate that. Like, yeah, I can send the same message over and over to one chick, send the same message to another chick, but you're not really doing anything smooth. It's not romantic. It's just, hopefully she falls for this same line that I give to every other girl. And hopefully she likes my looks. Because dating apps is all just looks. At least when you were approaching a woman in person, you can use a little bit of your charisma. It was more than just your looks. Yes, looks play a part, of course. Initially, they got to be attracted to you initially, but they may be on the fence. They may be, oh, he's kind of cute, but I'm not sure. But then when you on that fence, you can win her over with confidence. You can win her over with charisma. You can win her over with your ability to make her smile, your ability to make her laugh. You know what I mean? Your personality then shines when you're in person, because she's really getting a feel of the type of person you are. And then she's visualizing if she could be with someone like you, So there's nothing like that. Nothing can replicate that. So I do a little bit of both. I still cold approach women in public, but I'm still on the dating apps, and hopefully I meet a girl that I like in public. I'd rather meet a girl in public than on a dating app, because on the dating app, you don't know what you're gonna get sometimes. Some of these girls are using pictures from 10 years ago, knowing dang well they done added like 40 pounds to their weight. Or they're taking these angles where you can't really see their face that good, or they're not smiling, and then you see them in person and you're like, this is not what I envisioned. This is not the girl that I thought I was meeting. You know, there's been times where I met a girl and she looked better in her pictures than she did in reality. I know we all have met someone like that before. I don't know, maybe a girl has felt that way about me. Who knows? But we all have felt that, have experienced that before, where a girl looked better in her pictures. I've also seen it the other way, where a girl looked better in reality than she did in her pictures. And that's always a winner. Like when you catch a girl that looks better than her pictures, like, ooh, shorty, them pictures ain't doing you justice. I, I love those type of situations. But I mean, you take what you can get, man. I'm busy. I really don't have the time to meet people in person. When I do go out to the bar once every month, once every 2 months, I may shoot my jumper at one or two girls. I may land, I may not. But I kind of do it because I want to stay sharp. I want to be used to engaging in conversation with a woman, and allowing things just to flow naturally, using my charisma and all that. So yeah, I think that's how we all should be operating, doing a little bit of both, being on the apps and being in person, because eventually you're gonna have to meet the girl on the app. You can't stay behind the keyboard the whole time. You're eventually gonna have to see her in person, and you're gonna have to be able to talk. You're gonna have to be able to allow your personality to shine, allow your charisma to shine. So you should be practicing in that. But yeah, I thank you guys for checking out this video. I'm gonna have more content on the way per usual. I'll catch y'all in the next one. I'm out.